Today, we begin an emotional journey that touches upon the complexities of family dynamics, sibling relationships, and the harsh realities of favoritism. We will delve into a story that will resonate with those who have ever felt overshadowed or unfairly treated. This is the beginning of the tale of Ethan and Maya, two siblings on opposite ends of the familial spectrum. At its heart, this story explores the themes of financial responsibility versus reckless entitlement, parental favoritism and its lasting impact, and ultimately, the quest for justice and self-advocacy. Let us start by introducing Ethan, a meticulous 15-year-old who embodies responsibility and diligence. While many teenagers his age might be absorbed in video games or social media, Ethan spends his time working to earn his allowance. He helps neighbors with landscaping, taking on extra gardening jobs. He meticulously tracks these efforts on a detailed spreadsheet on his personal laptop, where he has accumulated nearly $1,800 over the span of 18 months. His heart is set on obtaining a high-end gaming PC setup, a symbol of the dedication he has poured into saving. The money represents more than just a gaming device to Ethan. It symbolizes all the hard work he has invested, a tangible reward for his relentless efforts. In stark contrast to Ethan is his younger sister Maya. At only 12, she embodies the spirit of entitlement, believing deeply that her needs come first. Maya frequently squanders her allowance on trendy streetwear, overpriced bubble tea, and in-app purchases for mobile games, leaving no room for savings or financial responsibility. Unlike Ethan, who meticulously plans and works for his money, Maya tends to avoid her chores unless their father or Ethan supervises her. Within this dynamic, it becomes clear that Maya is often excused for her reckless behaviors, actively enabled by their mother Eleanor. Eleanor's favoritism towards Maya becomes the central issue in the family's financial conflict. She treats every irresponsibility and reckless decision Maya makes as mere childish antics. Eleanor consistently brushes off Ethan's frustrations, advising him to be the bigger person and dismissing his feelings as hypersensitivity. Time and again, Eleanor celebrates Maya's whims, calling her "my little star" and implying that her charm and creativity make her special, justifying her avoidance of mundane responsibilities. This preference creates a chasm between the siblings, leaving Ethan feeling undervalued and alienated. The family dynamics take another turn when David, Ethan's father, becomes more aware of the unfolding situation. Initially swamped with his demanding tech consulting job, David gradually begins to recognize the extent of favoritism displayed by Eleanor towards Maya. Seeing his son's hard work go unappreciated, while his daughter's entitlement is continually rewarded, ignites a protective instinct within David. He begins to step in, serving as an arbiter of fairness, trying to establish boundaries that nurture Ethan's sense of justice. As the story unfolds, Ethan's resolve and sense of fairness are put to the test. He finds himself navigating a minefield of conflicts fueled by Maya's brazen sense of entitlement, their mother's enabling behavior, and his father's attempts to impose balance. The emotional heartbeat of this tale lies in the struggles that arise from favoritism, a common family dynamic that only grows fiercer in the presence of adolescent self-definition and entitlement. Today, we have witnessed the early family dynamics that set the stage for a bitter conflict. Ethan's steadfast dedication to his goals starkly contrasts with Maya's lackadaisical attitude, leading us to wonder how these conflicts will escalate. Will Ethan find a way to assert himself amid the chaos? How will their family navigate the murky waters of favoritism and entitlement? With these questions lingering in our minds, we prepare to journey deeper into the escalating conflict that lies ahead. Ethan, having dedicated himself to saving every hard-earned dollar, is met with dismay when he discovers that a significant portion of his hard-earned money is missing. This is not an insignificant amount. $120 have vanished from his meticulously tracked savings. As the shock settles in, Ethan's mind races. In just a few months, he had been diligently working extra landscaping gigs and minutely recording every dollar earned on his laptop. The money was not merely a figure. It represented countless hours of labor, passion, and the dream of owning a high-end gaming PC setup. With a sinking feeling, Ethan confronts his sister Maya, who recently flaunted new limited edition sneakers that are undoubtedly beyond the means of her allowance. He asks her directly about the missing funds. Her reaction is swift. She instinctively feigns tears and runs to their mother Eleanor, claiming that Ethan is bullying her. This accusation cuts deep for Ethan, as he realizes once more that the dynamics of their family favor one narrative over his own truth. Naturally, Eleanor jumps to Maya's defense, grounding Ethan for what she perceives as false accusations. Even as Ethan presents his spreadsheet of savings and provides evidence to support his claim, Eleanor dismisses him with the rhetoric of sensitivity. "Be the bigger person," she chides. "You are too sensitive about this." These words only further solidify Ethan's feelings of isolation and the sense that no one regards his hard work as valuable or worthy of respect. Frustrated but resolute, Ethan reaches out to his father David, detailing the unfortunate incident through an urgent text message while he is at work. David, rising to the occasion as the protective father, immediately calls Eleanor to express his disapproval of her handling of the situation. He demands that Maya confess to what she has done. The confrontation shakes the family dynamics, highlighting the growing rift between parent and child and the escalating need for accountability. Reluctantly, Maya admits to taking the money, murmuring a half-hearted apology that feels empty to Ethan. Their father reinforces the notion of fairness by digitally transferring the stolen amount back to Ethan, grounding Maya for a period, and deducting the amount from her future allowances. This marks a victory for Ethan, even if it is overshadowed by the fear that the cycle may just continue. However, Eleanor's enabling behavior rears its head yet again. To Ethan's dismay, she secretly hands Maya cash a few days later, nullifying the punishment David enforced. This breach of trust between David and Eleanor only deepens the sense of injustice Ethan feels, transforming his hope for fairness into a bitter awareness of the persistent favoritism directed toward Maya. Recognizing the need for more protective measures, David purchases a small, fireproof biometric safe for Ethan, a bold statement that illustrates his support. David instructs Ethan to keep the safe's location and existence private from both Eleanor and Maya. The new layer of security feels empowering for Ethan. Still, it also ignites further tensions between the siblings. Despite these efforts, Ethan comes home one evening to find his room in complete disarray. Furniture is haphazardly shifted, indicating a forced search. Immediately, Ethan knows who is responsible. The violation of his space amplifies his frustration toward both Maya and Eleanor. When he confronts Maya about the apparent ransacking, she dismisses his claims, instead accusing him of not being able to share his things or being too possessive. These words leave Ethan feeling even more isolated and rejected. David intervenes once again, hearing from Ethan about the state of his room. He expresses his indignation about Maya's actions, and determined to ensure his son's security, he installs a heavy-duty deadbolt on Ethan's bedroom door, handing him a personal key hidden in a discreet lockbox. This gesture solidifies David's unwavering support for Ethan, but it also illustrates the growing chasm between him and Eleanor, who continues to blame Ethan for the ongoing strife within the household. As Ethan endeavors to navigate this maze of emotions, a troubling pattern emerges. Maya's continued demands for money intensify, as she frequently approaches Ethan pleading for cash after depleting her allowance on impulsive purchases. Playing his father's advocate, Ethan decides to implement a methodical approach to Maya's requests, insisting that she draft a formal, written IOU with both of their signatures. However, Maya finds his demands absurd, tearing up the agreements in frustration, further straining their relationship. The situation reaches a boiling point when Eleanor's enabling further spirals. Maya, shedding tears, complains to Eleanor about Ethan's ridiculous IOU. Enraged by what she perceives as Ethan's insensitivity, Eleanor marches directly toward her son's room, intending to intimidate him into compliance. But Ethan, anticipating this aggression, calmly steps back into his room and locks the deadbolt. The collision with the door sends Eleanor stumbling backward, resulting in a visible bruise and a sprained wrist. Instantly, she shifts the blame to Ethan, accusing him of setting a trap and declaring him responsible for her injury. This moment encapsulates the unraveling family dynamics. Eleanor fails to accept any responsibility, and her need for control pushes Ethan further away. David's reaction is heard swiftly. A phone call to Eleanor results in a firm lecture regarding her reckless behavior and physical intimidation. His call to accountability culminates in a deduction of her spending money and additional household chores assigned to her due to her enabling behavior. David's staunch support for Ethan injects a glimmer of hope into his world, yet the storm clouds of instability over the family home grow darker with each passing day. This chapter of Ethan's story illustrates the grim realities of favoritism, entitlement, and misguided efforts. As a young man trying to find his way in a household riddled with dysfunction, Ethan's struggle will only intensify from here. The increasing tensions surrounding his property, his efforts for respect, and the toxic climate nurtured by Eleanor and Maya place Ethan on a path that promises only more conflict. What outcomes will his journey yield? The unfolding events challenge the very notions of fairness, forcing Ethan to confront the deepest wrongs of his familial ties. Ethan's sense of security, already compromised by the theft perpetrated by his sister Maya, reaches a new low when he returns home to find his bedroom door splintered, his window cracked, and the empty box that once contained his safe lying carelessly in the garden below. His heart sinks as he processes the wreckage, his sanctuary invaded and violated. The once hopeful refuge that his room provided is now an epitome of destruction and chaos. Cornered and guilt-ridden, Maya reluctantly confesses to her reckless actions. She admits to smashing the door with a baseball bat and discarding the safe out of frustration when she was unable to gain access to it. Instead of holding her accountable, Eleanor steps in and attempts to downplay the severity of Maya's transgressions. She scathingly remarks that the existence of the safe provoked an unnecessary reaction from her daughter, minimizing the impact of Maya's behavior and representing a profound failure to acknowledge the depth of the problem. David's reaction, however, is swift and resolute. Summoned by Ethan's alert about the destruction, he arrives home to witness the chaos firsthand. The sight of his son's distress ignites a protective fury within him, and he firmly reprimands Eleanor for her lack of support for Ethan and for enabling Maya's irresponsibility. In a decisive move, David grounds Maya for a month, enforcing accountability by deducting the cost of the window replacement from her future allowances. This marks a crucial moment for Ethan. His father's intervention offers a glimmer of hope that fairness might still be salvaged amidst the conflicts that plague their home. Yet the aftermath of this confrontation illustrates the dysfunctional patterns entrenched within their family relationship. Despite the justified consequences, Eleanor again undermines David's authority. She secretly provides Maya with cash for her next allowance, rendering David's discipline ineffective and nullifying his efforts to instill responsibility. This blatant act of defiance against her husband's authority only solidifies Ethan's conviction that he cannot rely on his mother for support or validation. The emotional toll of these events weighs heavily on Ethan, who now grapples with a sense of betrayal and isolation. He endeavors to establish boundaries, enforcing a strict line between himself and the chaos that Maya embodies. Yet, despite his best efforts, Maya relentlessly approaches him for money, often pleading for financial assistance after frivolously spending her allowance on concerts, bubble tea, and impulsive online shopping. Each encounter serves as a reminder of the imbalance that defines their relationship, a pattern that Ethan finds increasingly untenable. In an effort to establish a semblance of order, Ethan mimics his father's previous interventions. He insists that Maya draft a formal written IOU whenever she seeks his help financially. He demands signatures from both of them, which he believes would underline the seriousness of their agreement, one that Maya scoffs at, tearing the documents in frustration. The cycle of confrontation escalates further, and with each failed attempt at setting clearly defined boundaries, Ethan feels deeper frustration. This contentious surge reaches a shocking climax when Maya weeps to Eleanor about Ethan's unreasonable requests. Responding with fury, Eleanor embarks on a misguided mission to physically confront Ethan in a desperate attempt to pressure him into compliance. She strides angrily towards his room, determined to intimidate her son, but Ethan remains focused and calm, anticipating her aggression as he shuts the door and locks the new deadbolt in place. The impact of her collision with the door reverberates through the household. The crash sends Eleanor stumbling backward, resulting in a visible bruise on her forehead and a sprained wrist. Instantly, she redirects the blame onto Ethan, accusing him of setting a trap and attributing her injury to his defiance. Her refusal to take responsibility illustrates the troubling dynamics that define their family interactions. Instead of recognizing the consequences of her own aggressive behavior, she lashes out at Ethan, reinforcing the toxic cycle of blame and denial. As the events unfold, David's reaction is prompt. A fervent phone call to Eleanor encapsulates the tension in their household. He sternly criticizes her for instigating the confrontation rather than supporting Ethan, underscoring the dangerous path their family dynamics are sliding down. His voice serves as a protective barrier for Ethan, communicating to him that he is not alone in this battle. David progresses further, outlining consequences for Eleanor's reckless actions. He asserts that she will need to take on extra household chores, and he reduces her personal spending money as a direct consequence of her enabling behavior. These measures are as much practical as they are symbolic. They signify David's commitment to fostering a fairer, healthier home environment for both of his children. Yet even in this moment of clarity, the shadows of dysfunction loom large over the household, threatening to engulf them all. In navigating this complicated interplay of favoritism, entitlement, and escalating conflict, Ethan becomes acutely aware of the emotional distance growing between him and his mother. As his resentment festers and the disparity in their relationships deepens, he embarks on a quest for justice and resolution. He seeks to reclaim not only his hard-earned money but also his dignity, autonomy, and the rightful acknowledgement of his efforts. Ultimately, Ethan's journey serves as a testament to the profound challenges of advocating for oneself in an environment where the scales of justice are tipped steeply in favor of division rather than unity. The conflicts that arise in this chapter foreshadow yet further turbulence, crafting a pathway fraught with struggle as he fights to carve out a space for himself and a family caught in a cycle of dysfunction. Ethan's world shifts dramatically when, while cleaning out an old drawer, he stumbles upon an email notification that will change everything. The subject line reads, "Acceptance Notification. Character Building Boarding School." Confusion floods his mind, swiftly eclipsed by anger as he reads the details of a specialized school set to correct his behavioral issues. The realization dawns: Eleanor intends to send him away, labeling him as the problematic child in need of a proper upbringing. Panic grips him, thoughts racing. She is fully prepared to cut him off from the reality he knows and place him into an environment devoid of familial warmth and understanding. Ethan's heart races as he processes the implications of this discovery. Was he merely a burden to her? The thought sends a pang of betrayal through him, one that twists deeper with every passing moment. A boarding school, known for its rigid discipline and structure, symbolizes the finality of Eleanor's contempt for his autonomy. Amidst the turmoil, he takes swift action, quickly backing up the email and any related documents to a secure cloud drive. In his mind, this is not merely about physical separation. It is about the freedom to exist, to pursue his interests, to be embraced for who he is without the threat of retribution. Eleanor, however, is oblivious to Ethan's growing resolve. With a facade of calmness, she steps into his life with half-truths about the benefits of discipline and refinement, claiming it will instill in him the values she believes he lacks. Each statement she makes feels like a dagger. Ethan can sense her need for control surging behind her monotone words. He knows she has assumed the role of a benevolent provider, even while plotting to strip away his voice. He needs to learn respect, she states, spinning her narrative of him as less than deserving. The blatant disregard for his feelings, her undermining of his hard-earned efforts, only shrouds their relationship in a deeper layer of resentment. David, alerted by Ethan's distress, approaches the matter with a gravity that makes Eleanor flinch. After Ethan presents the discoveries, David confronts his wife. The conversation swirls with accusations and emotion, exposing the raw wounds of their marriage. "How could you think sending him away would help?" he questions, his voice filled with exasperation and disbelief. "You need to understand that there is a difference between discipline and punishment." Eleanor evades accountability, her defensiveness transforming into subdued aggression. For a moment, David sees clearly. The glimmer of resistance flickers in Ethan's eyes, spurred on by a surge of righteous indignation against his mother. Inevitably, Eleanor backtracks from her earlier stance upon David's rebuke. However, amidst her backpedaling, she finds a more insidious way to manipulate the situation. She attempts to forge David's permission via hacked digital signatures, pushing her agenda forward. Ethan stands paralyzed, awareness dawning in waves as he realizes the depths of her machinations. She believes she can set his path without understanding that he is not a puppet to be controlled. The rage surging within him burns bright. Not only must he protect his future, but he must also expose her actions for what they truly are, an egregious breach of trust. In a moment of confrontation, David lays down the law. He warns Eleanor that any further attempts to communicate with the boarding school or enroll Ethan would lead to dire consequences, spelling out the legal ramifications she would face should she proceed. At that moment, both parents become emblematic of larger issues within their household. Eleanor's manipulations reveal her desperation, while David's increasing protection of Ethan showcases his willingness to be the stalwart defender in a household rife with turmoil. As the days pass, the atmosphere grows thick with tension. The unspoken threat of Eleanor's intent lingers, air thick with the tension of unresolved conflicts. Ethan releases his emotions onto paper, scrawling out his feelings in letters that express both pain and determination. He writes about the servitude of expectation, the betrayal from a mother he once adored blindly. These letters become a lifeline, a tangible connection to his own agency amidst the chaos swirling around him. While Ethan grapples with feelings of entrapment, he begins to rally the inner strength born from his support system, the collective care of those who genuinely desire the best for him among friends, and David's unwavering support. Despite the disarray hovering over his family, he finds solace in the knowledge that he is not alone. Eleanor's plans to send Ethan away serve as a form of escapism for her, a way to parry the criticisms of her parenting, to hold tight to a warped sense of control. By attempting to exile him, she inadvertently relinquishes the last remnants of a cohesive family narrative. David's unwavering commitment to Ethan crystallizes their shared bond and strengthens a newfound resolve against the fractures threatening to tear them apart. As the storm escalates around them, it becomes clear that Eleanor's machinations are an attempt to reinforce her existing worldview, one built upon control and favoring Maya's undeserved entitlement. The truth within the structured chaos of their household is destined to unearth the dynamics that could not sustain themselves much longer. Ethan learns of strength, not solely derived from rebellion, but from standing firm in truth, advocating for himself amidst uncertainty. The mother he once looked up to now reveals a different face, one marked by selfishness, prompting him to ponder what is the cost of remaining loyal to one so devoid of compassion. Ultimately, the chaos birthed from Eleanor's attempts leads not only to a confrontation of ideals, familial love and betrayal, but also to outcome unforeseen, a looming divorce that has the potential to forever reshape the landscape of Ethan's life. The unraveling of their family unit signifies the beginning of a much deeper journey, one that will take Ethan down paths he never expected but desperately needs to explore. As the tension thickens and the stakes rise, Ethan prepares himself for a final confrontation, armed with knowledge and truth, ready to navigate the turbulent waters ahead. It is a moment that will change both his fate and the family dynamic irrevocably, a test of resilience against the backdrop of Eleanor's desperate actions. With this impending storm, the stage is set for a decisive culmination of their tumultuous saga, where the fractures of loyalty, love, and betrayal will ultimately determine their fates. As the dust settles from the upheaval of the divorce, Ethan finds himself navigating a landscape transformed by the decision of his father to leave Eleanor. The chaos of the previous months feels like a distant memory, yet its shadows linger, not just within the walls of their once shared home, but in the hearts and minds of those affected. This is not merely a tale of familial discord. It is about the lives intertwined in distorted threads of favoritism, entitlement, and now the bittersweet challenge of moving on. Ethan's liberation from the toxic dynamics has opened doors he never thought he would pass through. With his father David, he finds comfort and security, knowing that he is no longer subject to Eleanor's burdensome expectations or Maya's destructive tendencies. His father's apartment is a realm of newfound freedom, a sanctuary where the weight of the past can slowly be lifted, and the foundation for an independent future is being constructed. Here, amidst his carefully arranged belongings, Ethan begins to understand the depths of his worth and the value of self-advocacy, feelings so often overlooked in the past. However, amidst the solace of his father's support, the chasm between him and Maya widens. Their relationship, once buoyed by the innocent yet intricate bond of siblings, begins to fray. Maya's bi-weekly visits reveal the extent of her transformation. With each interaction, it becomes clear that their worlds are segregated by choices made during their childhood. Maya seems to embody the very entitlement that led to their family's unraveling, and Ethan finds her behavior increasingly difficult to tolerate. Each conversation feels strained, weighed down by unspoken resentment and an ever-growing disconnect. Maya's new attitude feels like a betrayal to Ethan, who still carries the scars from their tumultuous experiences. Her self-absorption and the glowing approval of their mother further alienates him from her. He cannot reciprocate the careless sprightliness with which she approaches her lifestyle choices, or the continuous entitlement that she displays when she asks for money or favors, often without the slightest hint of gratitude or recognition of his previous sacrifices. Instead of the camaraderie they once shared, Ethan feels like there exists a wall between them, made of the bricks of Eleanor's favoritism, which now stands unbreached. Ethan learns to set boundaries, not merely about money and possessions, but regarding emotional engagement as well. The IOUs he had once drafted now seem irrelevant. The relationship has evolved beyond mere transactions. He finds himself questioning the worthiness of extending his hand, especially when Maya's requests are often followed by manipulation disguised as affection. When she visits, he is resolved to keep his distance emotionally, a stark contrast to the closeness he once fostered. This distance grows with each interaction, leaving Maya frustrated but incapable of understanding the depth of the repercussions of her behavior. On the other hand, Eleanor's presence in Ethan's life diminishes significantly. He perceives a shift. She is no longer the nurturing figure he once admired, but rather an enabler of dysfunction. Every excuse she makes for Maya becomes another nail in the coffin of their relationship. As Ethan acknowledges this truth, he begins to withdraw. The fortnightly excuses to avoid visiting her house, alongside her attempts to draw him into the boutique she has established within the former family home, serve as barriers that he is determined to uphold. In his mind, the choice to evade her beckoning still bears echoes of their shared past, a past filled with skewed love and bias. With time, the conversations become fewer and further apart. For Ethan, each interaction with Eleanor becomes a reminder of her enabling nature, and he can no longer subject himself to her relentless validation of Maya's entitlement. His heart weighs heavy, not just from loss but from the reality of what a mother's favoritism does to a family dynamic. Though he had once longed for things to return to normal, he gradually realizes that the normal he once yearned for was fundamentally flawed, built on a foundation of inequity and manipulation. As the years progress, the connection between Ethan and Maya solidifies into a distant acquaintance. No longer are they siblings bonded by the innocence of youth. Rather, they become two people occupying different emotional landscapes. Ethan aimed towards healing, responsibility, and self-advocacy, while Maya continues to navigate hers by walking the lenient path paved by their mother. The distance becomes an unyielding chasm, one marked by unresolved resentment and contrasting life philosophies. In reflecting on these changes, Ethan understands that moving forward is not merely about shedding the toxicity of past relationships, but creating a new narrative, one defined by love, respect, and accountability. The crescendo of division has led him toward a deeper understanding of the importance of boundaries, both with his family and within himself. He recognizes that estrangement does not equate to weakness, it signifies strength. It represents the painful yet necessary choices he must navigate to ensure a brighter future. In the face of change, Ethan rediscovers pieces of himself he thought lost. He embraces independence, urging himself to cultivate relationships formed on mutual respect and shared values, people who would nurture rather than consume. With each passing year, he finds solace in his own strength, willingness to break free from the chains of favoritism, and the courage to redefine what family means for him. As the story of Ethan unfolds, it is one of resilience, reflection, and rebirth. Amidst the scarred memories of a tumultuous past lies a blossoming future rich with potential and the promise of rebuilding family, one built on compassion, equality, and love. Thank you for joining me in exploring Ethan's incredible journey towards liberation and self-advocacy in the face of familial strife. If you found this story meaningful and want to see more in-depth explorations of emotional narratives, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for future content. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Have you experienced similar dynamics within your own families? How did you find your way to healing? Your stories matter, and sharing them can help others feel less alone. Until next time, remember, resilience comes from within, and every journey towards self-discovery is worth taking. Stay strong, and I will see you in the next video.